Sergeant Emma Carter had faced the harsh realities of war zones, but nothing could have prepared her for the struggle of civilian life. Once a soldier in the U.S. Army, she had endured enemy fire, lengthy deployments, and the weight of responsibility. Now she was just another veteran, fighting to be seen in a world that overlooked her. After applying to countless jobs, each rejection eroded the confidence that the military had instilled in her. Employers saw the word veteran and immediately assumed she was broken, unstable, or too rigid for the corporate world. Her savings were dwindling quickly. Sitting in her dimly lit apartment, she turned on the news. President Donald Trump was speaking at a live press conference just a few blocks away. It was her last hope. Maybe, just maybe, if she could reach him, things would change. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed her coat and stepped into the chilly air. Washington, D.C. was alive with people, the city's energy buzzing all around her. Emma made her way toward the press conference venue, her heart pounding. The idea of confronting the president was insane, but what choice did she have? Stay home, waiting for another rejection letter? She gripped her worn-out bag tightly. Her military uniform had been swapped for jeans and a jacket, but she still carried herself like a soldier. She had served her country with pride. Why couldn't she serve in a different way now? When she arrived, security was tight. Reporters crowded together, cameras flashing. She paused for a moment, uncertain. Would she be arrested for speaking up? Would the president even notice her? Steeling herself, she pressed on, determined to make her voice heard. This was her one shot at a future. Inside the crowded press conference room, Emma felt out of place among the polished reporters, their neatly typed questions in hand. Her palms were sweaty, her throat dry. The president was addressing questions about the economy, foreign policy, and national security important issues, but not her reality. Her pulse raced as the final question was asked. The conference was about to end, now or never. She stood, her voice strong and clear, honed from years of giving orders. "Mr. President!" The room shifted. All eyes on her, cameras snapping, Secret Service agents tensed, ready to remove her. Trump looked up, surprised. "Who are you?" She swallowed, taking a shaky breath. "Sergeant Emma Carter, U.S. Army." She steadied herself. "I need a job, sir." A hush swept through the room as the camera zoomed in on her face. Trump's expression went from surprise to seriousness. He set down his notes and leaned toward the microphone. "You're telling me you serve this country and now no one will hire you?" Emma nodded, her voice unwavering. "I've applied to dozens of companies. The moment they see veteran on my resume, they hesitate. Some think I have PTSD. Others assume I can't adapt. I gave everything to this country, but now I feel discarded." Trump glanced at his advisors, who exchanged uncertain looks. Then he turned back to Emma. "And what do you want?" She squared her shoulders, her voice calm but firm. "A chance. Let me prove myself." The president tapped his fingers on the podium, considering. Then, with a decision that would change everything, he leaned forward, signaling the start of a new chapter for Emma. Trump nodded slowly, then gestured for her to come up. Gasps spread across the room. No one had expected this. Even the Secret Service hesitated. Emma's heart raced as she moved past the stunned reporters. When she reached the stage, she stood at attention. Trump studied her carefully. "You were a soldier. What was your job?" "I led a team in logistics, sir. Coordinating supplies, managing operations," Emma replied. Trump turned to his staff. "Is there a position in my administration for someone like her?" One advisor hesitated. "We'd have to review her qualifications." "She's a veteran, that's qualification enough," Trump interrupted. He turned back to Emma. "You say you need a chance. How about working with the Department of Veterans Affairs, help fix the system from the inside?" Emma's breath caught. Was this really happening? "Yes, sir," she managed to say. Trump smiled. "Then you start Monday." The room erupted into shocked murmurs. Emma had just been handed the opportunity of a lifetime. The moment went viral, with news outlets running headlines like "Trump hires woman veteran on the spot" and "A desperate plea turns into a bold presidential move." Social media exploded with debates, some praising the president's decision, others questioning if it was just a publicity stunt. But for Emma, none of that mattered. This wasn't about politics, it was about proving herself. That night, she watched clips of the press conference replaying on every news channel. Her phone buzzed with messages from old military friends, family, even strangers, all thanking her for speaking up. But doubt crept in. She had fought in wars, but was she ready to navigate the political battlefield? Could she actually make a difference in a system that had been broken for so long? As she lay awake, one thing was clear Monday morning. She would walk into the Department of Veterans Affairs not as a job seeker, but as a warrior ready for a new fight. Monday arrived faster than Emma had expected. Dressed in a crisp blazer and slack civilian clothes that felt foreign after years in uniform, she walked through the doors of the Department of Veterans Affairs. She was met with skeptical glances from longtime employees. A middle-aged man with glasses approached her. "You must be the soldier the president handpicked," he said, his tone far from welcoming. "Welcome to the bureaucracy." Emma shook his hand firmly. "I'm here to work. Where do I start?" He handed her a stack of reports. "Veteran claims backlog. Good luck." Emma sat at her desk, flipping through the files. Hundreds of veterans were waiting, some for months, others for years for benefits. Some were homeless. Some had medical conditions worsening due to the delays. Her jaw clenched. This wasn't just inefficiency, it was a failure to those who had sacrificed everything. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself if she could handle combat, she could handle this. And she was going to start today. Emma spent hours digging into the system. The bureaucracy was suffocating. Endless paperwork, outdated procedures, and an attitude of "this is just how things are" filled the air. She met Hank, a Vietnam veteran, who had been waiting 3 years for his disability claim to be processed. "I gave up checking," he admitted, shaking his head. "They always say it's in review." Emma's fists clenched. Unacceptable. She marched into her supervisor's office. "Why is a veteran waiting 3 years for basic benefits?" Her supervisor barely looked up. "Processing takes time." "Not 3 years," Emma replied firmly. "And I'll make sure it doesn't," he sighed. "You're new. You'll learn how slow things move here." Emma stared him down. "Or I'll learn how to speed them up." That night she stayed late, going through cases one by one. She didn't have power yet, but she had persistence, and sometimes that was more dangerous than power. Not everyone welcomed her determination. Some VA officials dismissed her as just a soldier with no government experience. Others actively avoided her, hoping she'd give up. One senior officer sneered at her. "You think you can fix this overnight? This is Washington, not the battlefield." Emma met his gaze unflinchingly. "You're right. In battle, things get done a lot faster." She knew she was ruffling feathers, but she also knew one thing. When someone tells you change is impossible, it usually means they don't want it to happen. Instead of backing down, Emma doubled her efforts. She built strong connections with veterans organizations, gathered testimonies, and compiled undeniable proof that the system was broken and needed reform. The resistance only fueled her determination. She wasn't there to play politics. She was there to fight for the forgotten. And she wasn't leaving until they got what they deserved. A week later, Emma's desk phone rang. "Sergeant Carter, the president wants to see you." Her stomach tightened. Had she pushed too hard? When she entered the Oval Office, Trump leaned back in his chair. "You're making waves," he said, a smirk playing at his lips. "Good ones." Emma hesitated. "Sir, I'm just doing what needs to be done." "That's exactly why I brought you in," Trump replied, leaning forward. "I want you to take this nationwide. No more delays, no more excuses. I'm giving you the authority to make real change." Her heart pounded. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was a mission. With her newfound authority, Emma launched an aggressive initiative. Fast, tracking claims, partnering with businesses for veteran employment, and ensuring mental health services were accessible. She personally visited veteran hospitals, exposing the poor conditions that had been ignored for years. Some officials fought back, trying to block her efforts, but she didn't care. Emma went straight to the press. "These men and women serve this country. We don't have the right to fail them." Public support surged and Congress was forced to act. Policy changes were proposed. Emma had turned a moment of desperation into a nationwide movement. Her work came at a cost. Late nights, endless meetings, and constant pressure. Some days she felt like she was losing herself. One evening, her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. "When's the last time you slept?" Emma sighed. She didn't know. But then she thought about Hank, the Vietnam veteran who had finally received his benefits the week before, and the countless others who would finally get the help they deserved. She smiled, wiped her tired eyes, and got back to work. The more she fought, the more veterans began reaching out emails, letters, and even personal visits. A young Marine named Jake showed up at her office one day. "I saw you on television," he said. "I was losing hope, but you changed that." Emma realized something powerful. She wasn't just fixing a system, she was restoring faith. For the first time in a long time, veterans felt seen, and that was worth every sleepless night. 1 year later, Trump called another press conference, but this time Emma stood beside him. Trump began. "This soldier asked me for a job. Today she's helped thousands of veterans get the care they deserve." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Emma looked out at the sea of faces: veterans, families, people who had once been forgotten. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had won a war that truly mattered. Emma's work didn't just impact veterans, it inspired a movement across the country. More companies began hiring former soldiers, government agencies streamlined processes, public perception of veterans shifted. One day, she received a letter from a young woman in the military. "Because of you, I'm not afraid of what comes after service." Emma held the letter close, tears welling in her eyes. This was why she had fought. Emma continued her mission, expanding programs, challenging outdated policies, and ensuring no veteran was left behind. She wasn't just a former soldier. She was a leader, a fighter, and a symbol of what one voice could do. Standing at another press conference, this time beside the president as the new director of Veteran Affairs, Emma smiled. She had started as a desperate woman looking for a job. Now, she was leading a movement that changed the lives of thousands. The war was over, and she had won.